If you're a UK pensioner, or you've got a parent or grandparent who is, stop and watch this video for the next 90 seconds. You will find helpful. Because right now, this week, 3 things are shifting that genuinely work in your favour, and almost nobody watching this has heard about all 3 yet. Here's the thing about pension news in this country. It's never delivered to you personally. Nobody rings you up and says, "By the way, this changed, and here's exactly what it means for your money." You're expected to just know, and most people don't until it's too late to act on it. So today I'm laying out 3 surprises. One of them started just days ago and could take real stress off your shoulders if you're dealing with a health-related claim. One of them is a quiet change to how you're treated the next time you sit in front of an assessor, and it protects you in a way most people don't realise yet. And the third one is money. Real money, sitting there for a huge number of pensioners right now that a lot of people wrongly assume they're not entitled to anymore. I'm going to walk you through all 3 in plain English, no jargon, no reading off a government leaflet at you. What changed, who it affects, and exactly what you need to do about it, if anything at all, because in one case, you genuinely don't have to lift a finger. Before I get into the first one, do me a favour and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this reach the people who need to hear it, and trust me, by the end of this video, you'll understand why that matters more than usual this time. Right, let's get into it. Let's start with the one that landed most recently, because it's still fresh, and it's still catching people off guard in their post right now. If you're a pensioner who's still receiving personal independence payment, and yes, that does happen, because once you're awarded PIP before you reach state pension age, it carries on for life even after you retire, then what I'm about to tell you affects you directly, and it's genuinely good news for once. For years, the review process for PIP has been one of the most exhausting parts of living with a long-term health condition. 9 months. That's how often some people were being called back in for a full reassessment, even when their condition wasn't going anywhere, even when nothing had changed since the last time they filled in the same forms and answered the same questions about the same struggles. If you've ever gone through it, you'll know exactly the feeling I mean. That low hum of anxiety that starts building weeks before the letter even arrives, because you know it's coming and you know what it's going to ask of you. That's changing. As of the start of this month, the rules allow the DWP to extend existing PIP awards instead of automatically pulling people back in for reassessment. For most claimants, aged 25 and over, that means a minimum award of 3 years. And if things are still stable at that point, the next one can stretch to 5. Read that again, because it matters. 5 years instead of 9 months. That's not a small adjustment. That's the difference between constantly bracing for the next assessment and actually being able to plan your life a little further ahead. Now here's the part that really matters for you, practically speaking, right now, today. You don't apply for this. You don't ring anyone, you don't fill in a form. If your award is being extended, the DWP writes to you directly to confirm it. So the only thing you actually need to do is keep an eye on your post over the coming weeks, and when that letter lands, actually read it properly instead of setting it aside for later, because it'll tell you your new award end date, and that's information worth knowing precisely. And there's a twist to this that I think is genuinely important, because it isn't just good news wrapped around a catch. It cuts both ways, in your favour either way. If your health has actually gotten worse since your last assessment, and your current award no longer reflects what you're really dealing with day to day, you are not stuck waiting for your next scheduled review to say something. You can ask for a change of circumstances review yourself, whenever you need to, using the number printed on your own award letter or through your DWP online journal. So whether things have stayed the same or gotten harder, this new rule gives you more control than you had a month ago, not less. Now, sit with that for a second, because the second surprise I want to tell you about is connected to this world too, and it's one of those changes that sounds small on paper, but actually shifts the balance of power in your favour in a way that could matter enormously if you ever end up disputing a decision. Just days ago, every single face-to-face and telephone assessment for disability and sickness benefits started being recorded as standard. Not optional, not something you have to specifically request in advance and hope gets approved. Standard practice for everyone, starting this week. Think about what that actually means. For years, one of the most common complaints from people going through these assessments has been a simple, maddening one. A mismatch between what was actually said in the room or on the phone and what ended up written down afterwards in the assessor's report. Someone explains in detail exactly how their condition affects a normal Tuesday. And then, weeks later, a letter arrives that seems to describe an entirely different conversation. No proof either way. Just your word against a summary you can't fully verify. That gap is exactly where a recording matters. If there's ever a dispute about what was said or what wasn't said, or how a question was framed, there is now an actual record sitting behind it. Not a paraphrase written by someone else after the fact, the real thing. And if you ever need to challenge a decision through a mandatory reconsideration or an appeal, that recording becomes something concrete you can point to, rather than relying purely on your own memory of a conversation that might have happened under a lot of stress. Here's what I genuinely suggest doing with this information. If you've got an assessment coming up, whether it's for yourself or someone you're supporting, you can ask for a copy of that recording afterwards if you want one for your own records. Put the request in writing, keep a copy of what you send, and you've now got a paper trail sitting alongside an audio one. It costs you nothing, it takes 5 minutes, and if you never need it, you've lost nothing by having it. But if you ever do need it, you'll be glad it's there. Now, I've saved the third surprise for last, because out of everything I'm covering today, this is the one I think catches out the largest number of people, and it's the one most directly tied to actual money landing in your account. A couple of years back, there was a change that a lot of pensioners noticed immediately, because it hit their pocket directly. Winter fuel payment, the annual payment that helps cover heating costs through the colder months, got restricted, so that only people receiving pension credit or certain other means-tested benefits were still getting it. If you weren't on one of those benefits, the payment just stopped arriving, and for a lot of households, that was a real, noticeable loss heading into winter. Here's the surprise. That restriction isn't the current rule anymore. It hasn't been for a while now. And yet, I still come across pensioners all the time who assume it still applies to them, who've mentally filed winter fuel payment under things I used to get but don't anymore, and have simply stopped expecting it, stopped checking for it, stopped thinking about it at all. The truth is, winter fuel payment is back for everyone over state pension age, automatically. You don't need to be on pension credit, you don't need to apply for it in most cases. If you're already receiving the state pension or another qualifying benefit, it should simply land in your account, usually somewhere between November and December, without you having to do a single thing. We're talking £200 for most households, rising to £300 if you or your partner are 80 or over. That's not pocket change. That's a genuinely meaningful amount heading into the most expensive months of the year. Now, there is one wrinkle worth knowing about, so you're not caught off guard by it. If your own taxable income comes in above £35,000 a year, the payment does get clawed back. But even that happens automatically, either through an adjustment to your tax code or through your self-assessment return if you file one. You don't need to do anything to trigger that either way. It simply happens in the background. But there are two situations where you genuinely do need to take action yourself, rather than just waiting for it to sort itself out. If you've never received a winter fuel payment before, maybe you've only recently reached state pension age, or your circumstances have changed, you need to actively make a claim rather than assuming it'll appear on its own. And if you already know your income is well above that £35,000 line and you'd rather just opt out entirely than have it clawed back later, you can do that too. But there's a deadline each year to get that request in, so it's worth checking the current date on gov.uk rather than assuming you've already missed your window. And while we're here, let me flag something that matters just as much as the payment itself, maybe more. The DWP and HMRC will never, under any circumstances, text you or email you asking you to click a link to claim your winter fuel payment. If something like that lands in your inbox or your messages, it is not real, no matter how official it looks, no matter how convincing the logo is. Don't click it, don't reply to it, don't hand over a single detail. The real payment simply arrives, quietly, without asking you for anything first. So that's where things stand this week, and if you take nothing else away from this video, take this. If you're still on PIP after reaching state pension age, your award may now stretch to 3 or even 5 years instead of 9 months. And all you need to do is actually read the letter when it arrives. If you've got an assessment coming up, know that it's being recorded as standard now and that you can request a copy for your own protection if you ever need one. And if you've quietly assumed winter fuel payments stopped applying to you, it's worth double-checking that assumption right now, because for most people over state pension age, it's simply arriving automatically, and there's a very real chance you've been receiving it without even realizing exactly why. None of this gets explained to you in a personal phone call. Nobody's going to ring you up and walk you through it. That's exactly why videos like this one exist, and it's exactly why I genuinely appreciate it if you shared this with someone who needs to hear it. A parent, a neighbour, anyone over state pension age who might have missed all 3 of these. I'll see you in the next one.